Hello and welcome to the CBB Super Show. I'm your host, Walter Waddell, aka Dubdeuce85, the niche sports connoisseur. We're out here doing our thing. We have grinded our way through 10, make it 11 weeks of college football because of week 0, of course, doing our thing. It is Christmas Eve for those of us who celebrate in this regard because college basketball starts tomorrow. The 2025-26 season is here. Absolutely excited. Who isn't? Chat's already fired up. Razzle says, Walt is so dreamy. I got the beanie on, I know you can't resist when I'm rocking the hat. Usually means I need a haircut, but I don't right now, but I do appreciate that. Aaron talking about, this is an inside joke for those of you who are new. Kendrick Davis, looking for that third COVID year. Aaron just could never, ever get Kendrick Davis correct. He says it's a season opening slate when Walt starts the show this early. It is early. Did promise you guys 10 p.m. EST. Started a little bit late, but, normally we start at 9 p.m. PST. That's the usual time, midnight on the East Coast. But we're doing a little early here, and Razzle says, yes, he's being nice to the non-West Coasters. And I'm doing the show on YouTube. Don't necessarily get used to it. I hope we will continue to do YouTube. I had played my intro song there to really set the tone, but there's a possibility of getting in trouble for that song. If we do, I'll have to do the show on Twitter/X only, which I've been doing with the CFB version of the show, which I've gotten the feedback. It's not as great on playback because some people like to listen to the show while they're doing other things. YouTube allows you to do that. Twitter/X doesn't necessarily. I do know there's a picture-in-picture on mobile Twitter that allows you to do so. But that is something that we're going to be doing a lot more of. So hopefully we can figure it out. And we are going to be doing, probably 3 to 5 shows per week, a lot of free content, but also in the green screens window trip community with FTN and the work that I'm doing with stat rankings. Plenty of free content, as I said, but there's also going to be a lot in premium with projections and everything. So kind of give that a look ahead here for what's going to be offered. Every single slate will entail a breakdown, whether that is a player pool / core, player blurbs, or an actual write-up. And then there will be projections, depending on which community you're part of there, for each and every slate as well for the premium members of the community. And I've already been working on that with projections here, adding some names, updating the model. The first few days and first few slates, of course, can be a little bit noisy, but I've been playing around with the projections here for the last couple of hours. Very, very excited about that. So, yeah. It's going to be a very fun one here. If you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on Twitter, please help me out. Interactions are how you can do so. Like Aaron and Eric, aka Rezel11 Grinds, have done there. Commenting, liking, and reposting / retweeting. All of this stuff helps a tremendous, tremendous amount. Whether some of the world watching some Sunday night football, the real grinders like you and I are here ready to break down an 8-game college basketball slate. There are a ton of games on Monday to sift through. We're not going to break down all of them. That would be crazy. I will be looking at opportunities to bet, though. It's a huge opening day slate, which we love. Got to pick your spots as best as you can. This will be a focus on the 8-game DFS slate that is put on by DraftKings. Also, we'll be dropping a few best bets and some props that I like here. And kind of just going over the teams on the slate, kind of talking about who's who, tons of transfer moves, freshmen coming in. It's really just an overview to kind of give you a preview of what teams have what players, who we're going to look for, all of that stuff. At the end, I'm also going to provide you with some best bet opportunities on futures, and I'm going to give some conference winners, not on every single conference, but the ones you can bet on either DraftKings or FanDuel, as well as my final four. So we're going to get it on paper, on record, on recording right here, right now, along with a dark horse pick, and then, of course, my champion. If you are part of FTN or in the premium Discord there, I've already talked about one team in particular that I'm extremely high on, so you probably already have an idea, but we will go through and do that and really kind of, make some solid predictions here that we'll hold to. Not going to do individual awards. Might end up doing that on tomorrow's show, but we'll see. All right, we're going to delve right in here. I'm not going to share. So when I'm doing these shows throughout the season, I'm going to have a initial look on the model as well, and I'm going to have a projection page. So I'm usually going to share that. Not going to do that tonight because it's not quite ready for public consumption just yet. But basically going to go through each game, the tried and true method, talk about how this is priced, who we're going to look at, what I think starting lineups will be, any tidbits and news that we're looking at, injuries, all of that good stuff. And we're also going to talk about some exhibition results from some of these teams that have played them. Of course, we have to take exhibition with a grain of salt at times because they're playing rotations or players that aren't going to play as much, but still gives us a little bit of an idea of what things are going to be happening here with different positions, different players, and all that. So let's get right into it. You might have noticed here my background slightly different. Got the CBB banner in the background. Changed my desk around. Cut out some of the outside stuff that is in the way. But yeah, we are ready to go. So let's get into this first game here, starting with Quinnipiac QU versus St. John's. This is a 26.5 point spread in favor of the Johnnies, and it's a total of 157.5, one of the higher totals on the slate. And I think that's going to be the case we see a lot with Ricky Pitino's team, the St. John's Red Storm. A little bit of changes here. Let me do this. I'm going to share my screen with the exhibition games. We're going to look at stat broadcast. Just give you guys something to look at here. Besides my beautiful face, as Razzle mentioned, where are you at here? Here we go. All right. Why is that not working? Okay, my Dom Plays. Is that Dom Plays? Says we were back. Dom Plays. You haven't been on YouTube as much. Feel like you don't hang out with me on Twitter too much, man. What's up with that? But it's good to see you. I was wondering if you would make an appearance. Was definitely looking forward to seeing you. It's not allowing me to share my screen. Oh, there it is. Okay. Let's do this. Oh, okay. I know why I was doing that. Cool. There we go. Been good, man. Been good. Just, 11 weeks of college football. It's got my brain rattled around a little bit. It's been a weird college football year. There's been injuries. There's been touchdown variance. It's been a very odd season, but we have done quite well. But we're ready. Our bread and butter, college basketball. And, it's going to start off with a bang. All right. So let's start off with the St. John's. They played 2 exhibitions. They had some secret scrimmages, whatever. Played Towson. Don't worry about the score too much here. But really just kind of seeing how this new team integrated. They added some new players, right? Isaiah Sellers comes in. Justin Sannon from ASU. Dylan Mitchell comes in by way of Cincy. Ian Jackson from North Carolina. A lot of new faces here. Dylan Darling comes in, a mid-major player. And then, of course, Zubi Ejiofor is back. So that's the main player of the name that you're going to remember. And then some secondary guys like Ruben Prey, Sadi Ibn Ayo, players like that. The big question that had to be answered this offseason from Rick is, will he have enough guard play? Will he have a point guard that can actually run this team? And will they have 3-point shooting that they can rely on? Bringing in Sannon, bringing in Sellers, that's 3-point shooting that they typically will be able to rely on. See, they didn't shoot particularly well in this game against Towson. Again, don't really want to worry about that too much. Ian Jackson shot a few, but they're going to have to really replace some scoring that they might be missing from last season. And it's a big changeover. And I had some questions, coming in. St. John's is obviously the favorite to win the Big East. There's a lot of talk about them. I was really nervous about how this team was going to come together. Replacing RJ Lewis, a talent like him, that's going to be very tough. Kadary Richmond, as inconsistent as he's been, he kind of knew his role facilitating, didn't stay healthy as much. Aaron Scott was a mainstay. Davion Smith, injuries, Simeon Wilcher was just starting to develop. And this is a lot of new pieces to integrate. I think Rick Pitino's done a good job bringing in pieces that don't necessarily feel like they are the alpha. So you're going to be integrating some players who are okay with secondary roles. Zuby is going to be a man. They need to feed him the rock. They need to give it to him, especially when you're in these games. We always talk about this, or Mike Kutry would always talk about targeting big men against low major, mid-major teams because they just don't necessarily have the size to contain a player like Zuby. And Zuby can sometimes be his own worst enemy, foul trouble, inconsistency. But I think he's going to have a big game here. They need to feed him. And then also I'm really interested in Dylan Mitchell and how he integrates in this team. You see in 22 minutes of action there against Towson, 8 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. He's going to be a very solid source of peripheral stats. Now let's go to here. The game against Michigan, very high scoring. I believe this one went to overtime too, if I'm not mistaken. And this was a really, really fun game to watch. Dylan Mitchell, 13-8. Just the way he kind of is carrying himself. Obviously, it's exhibitions, but that Michigan game, both teams treated that like a real game. I don't know if you guys streamed that or watched that at all, but that was a game treated like a real game. And I just love what I'm seeing out of Dylan Mitchell in almost a leadership type of role. Zuby had a big game, 24, 6 and 6 assists from Zuby. Is that going to be an area of his game we see now? They needed his size, obviously, against that Michigan front court, and he really did well. Bryce Hopkins played in this game, didn't play in the Towson game, 13 points, 9 rebounds, and an assist. Comes in, of course, after being injured for years at Providence. He's going to be a high usage type of scorer. And then we did see Sonnen score 14. And Ian Jackson came off the bench, played 21 minutes, more of a facilitator role. Again, when you look through there, the thing that sticks out, 3-point shooting. They scored 94 points, but nobody really did that well shooting the basketball from long range. Is that going to continue to be a problem for St. John's? It does kind of seem like that. Will it be a problem here against Quinnipiac? Probably not. Are they going to be going in the lane a lot? They probably will. So looking at the prices here for St. John's in this first one, I think they did a pretty nice job pricing studs up. I don't know that we're ever going to get to the days of 11K, 11.4, 12.4, what Zion Williamson years. Those prices were pretty high. I just don't know that we're going to get back there. So we're going to have to take the pricing, the new age pricing, which has been horrible on college football, by the way, and really kind of build around the idea that, yes, we're going to be getting these studs between 9 and 10K for the majority of the time. But it does seem like they've priced even secondary players up into that next tier, 8K, 7K. And really it's kind of made for a tighter priced first slate. Now, there's still plenty of value we're going to be able to have, but I do like the fact that if you're going to pay for any of these guys, it's going to cost you. And that will make it a little bit more challenging for some. People won't be able to just mindlessly play the opto and jam it in there. There's going to be some freshmen who are mattering right away, some transfers and new roles. These first few slates, and usually November is the biggest edge for us for a reason, and that's especially true here in the transfer portal era. So you have Zuby Ejiofor here, 9.3K, a reasonable price. What you have to worry about in these non-con games, especially early, potential blowouts. St. John's is a deep team. I'm kind of nervous for them, even in competitive games, looking at those exhibition, especially against Michigan. They're going to go 8 or 9 deep fairly regularly. Add Darling into the mix there, and then you've got another piece that you might get into to 9K. So we're going to want to pay close attention here in these first few weeks to Stat Broadcast. That is your Bible, in a sense, to track these games. Starting news on Twitter from Beats is great, but Stat Broadcast, only a few times a year it'll be wrong. This is where we're going to track all of that starter news. And sometimes it comes right before a lock, but that is how we're going to track and really try to stick to starters here for the first part of the season, especially with some of these lesser known teams in the mid-major, low-major ranks. So looking at St. John's, Ian Jackson at 8.6, that's a little bit too spendy for me. I am interested in Bryce Hopkins at 8K, knowing that he's going to have a high usage role. He's going to shoot a lot, but I have some concerns about these guys getting into the 30-35 range with so many other mouths on the tee to defeat. Isaiah Sellers at 5.4, Simon at 6.3, Dylan Mitchell at 6.3. These are all intriguing prices. I do want to see how the starting five rolls out, and really do want to see a couple of games for that rotation as well. Really, I can pay for Zuby because I know he's going to be on the floor for at least 25 minutes, and we know what his role is going to be. And then Dylan Mitchell, who I feel pretty comfortable with at 6'3". The only concern is that shots may not come to him. He's going to have to get his stats elsewhere. That can be a little bit of a drag at times, but under 7K for Dylan Mitchell is a pretty big steal overall. All right, Quinnipiac, let's talk about them. We don't have any exhibition data for Quinnipiac, but we do have some data here and some news about their team. I do have a friend in the Quinnipiac program has been around it a long time and is friends with some of the lesser staff members, trainers and such. So I have a pretty good idea of what this is going to look like for this team. They do have one name who is trending to redshirt, Ty Turnich. I think he played in one of their scrimmages, if I'm not mistaken, but it's 3K. It's not like it matters anyways, but it is worth noting that he is probably going to redshirt and not play. And then there are a couple of other players who are coming into the season as freshmen, such as Samson Riley. There's talks about him getting a pretty decent amount of minutes right away. We'll see. Don't think he'll start. And Jaden Reed, along with Ronell Giles. So there are 3 to 4 newcomers to the team, freshman-wise, that are probably going to be inserted right away. Now, Quinnipiac is a team a lot of people think has a chance to compete right away. Maybe not with St. John's, but in their conference and possibly even be a tournament team coming out of the MAC. Not the MAC, but the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. This is a team that is going to be quite good. Names to know for potential starting wise: FIU transfer Asim Jones, Amari Monroe, Jaden Zimmerman. Let's see, Spence Wee Wee, and then who's the other starter that I had projected here? Believe Grant Randall. So those are the projected starters per previews and what I've seen here out of reports. Monroe is at 7.5, probably not paying up for him anytime soon. In conference play, he was an absolute machine, high usage player, putting up 40 fantasy points per game. But that's a little bit tough. Now, I think the St. John's defense is going to be even better than it was last year, but I don't think that necessarily means we're not going to have fantasy goodness, as we'll say, from teams that they play. I do think Asim Jones at 5.1 is a pretty interesting play there. Excuse me. And then I do think Jaden Zimmerman at 4.7 is possibly a main team play from what I have seen. We don't necessarily have to go here. And if you're running some alt builds, perhaps get a little bit of exposure there. But Zimmerman is a player from Quinnipiac that I do have the most interest in, and he is sub 5K. So that's the Quinnipiac notes there. All right, let's move on to competitive game here. Florida versus Arizona. Total of 163.5. This one is the highest total on the slate. Florida comes in as a 3.5 point favorite. Arizona, new faces in new places. Florida, also some newcomers, but there's a reason a lot of people think they are going to be back in the Final Four and has a chance to repeat because they have continuity. And you're going to hear me talk about this a lot, especially in the first few weeks. Continuity is king. Now we're seeing some teams, Dukies and some others, who are going back to that freshman model, the one and done model, which is really no different than bringing in a transfer that's going to play for you for 1 year. But still having that tournament experience, that championship experience is just not replaceable. And Florida has a lot of guys coming back. So reason to be excited here. Florida will have, some key pieces gone, of course, and heart and soul wise. You can't just replace a guy like Walter Clayton, Will Richard, Elijah Martin. That was a hell of a trio. They're going to give it their best effort, though. Xavier Lee comes in, the Princeton star guard, facilitator extraordinaire. He can do a little bit of everything you see in the Ivy League, put up nearly 40 fantasy points per game, priced at a modest 8.3K to start. Now, I don't have any official exhibitions on file here. I do have some scrimmage secret scrimmage stuff I'm not really going to talk about because it doesn't really matter, but we'll see how this starting lineup shakes out. But you can count on Xavier Lee being on the floor. They do have Boogie Flan transferring in, former Arkansas player. He does have an injury designation on DraftKings, but I don't believe he's actually in any danger. The secret scrimmage that they had against Illinois right before Halloween, he did not play apparently. We'll see what happens there. He's priced at 8.7. It's probably zero chance I would consider playing him, even if he didn't have some potential injury. I want to see how he integrates into this team first, but I would much rather play Xavier Lee. And then, of course, you have standouts from last year, Thomas Hall, who's priced all the way at 9K. My, what a difference a year makes. Alex Condon at 8.7. I don't know about that, Chief. Ruben Chinyello comes back for another year, priced at 5.1. And then Micah Handlogden, all healthy now at 5K, still going to be a secondary option. And then A.J. Brown, who transfers in from Ohio. He is a pretty solid role player, looks the part of a role player who was a solid starting piece for Ohio last year. Going to be a lesser use guy here at Florida, but a nice secondary piece for them to have, especially if they get any injuries. And then some players who you don't know about that are worth paying attention to, at least for purposes of stashing away in your brain for later. CJ Ingram is one, and then the international kid Alex Kovachev, who is all the way down there at 3K. Definitely have some interest in there. He participated in their scrimmage. He has been practicing fully the entire week. And does sound like he's going to get some minutes here against Arizona. So I have some interest there in him, but it's going to be one of those kind of GPP darts, as my man Raz would like to say, not somebody that we can really play in our main lineup because I don't know that he'll get enough minutes to really put you over the top there, but he is an interesting look, especially when we know these Florida players around him get into foul trouble. There is going to be an opportunity for some minutes here. Xavier Lee at 8.3, definitely our best look. Hoff is just going to be like, I don't know that he's a stud star, Wooden Award winning type player, but he's going to be a guy that just does so much from a fantasy perspective. And we know without scoring a ton of points, he can put up 40 because of the blocks, the assists, the rebounds. He does a little bit of everything. It's just really hard to look at that price of 9K when we were paying 5K, 6.3, 7K at most for him last year. So it's going to take some time to get over that sticker shock. But it would not also surprise me if he put up 40 here against Arizona. He is going to be that good. On the Arizona side, returners include Jaden Bradley, Toba Waka, the two main players, Anthony Del Orso and Matias Cuevas. Those are the names you know. Two stud freshmen coming in. Koa Pete, he is a one and done for sure. Looks like a potential star immediately. And then Braden Burris, who maybe has a chance to come back because of NIL, but probably not. But NIL is the great equalizer now with guys who are in D1 and dones. And then some secondary players who played a lot in the scrimmage or in the exhibitions. Dwayne Aristot, who is really interesting. All the minutes he played in exhibition. Perhaps he is going to be a six-man type. And then, of course, they have Bryce James, one of LeBron's other sons. Didn't play much. I don't expect him to play much. Probably a redshirt candidate, but, mention LeBron James anytime we can for some engagement, if you will. Let me pull up the Arizona boxes here, and we'll share that. By the way, if you ever get stuck when you're looking for a box score or starting lineups and you run into a password protected stat broadcast game, I don't want to brag or nothing, but there's nothing that will keep me out. I have the password for the entire site. So you let me know. And I'll help you out. All right. I'm a nice guy in that regard. All right. Let's pull up the St. Mary's box. Let's see, make sure that. There we go. All right. Pretty good game against St. Mary's. St. Mary's has some dudes. We're not going to talk about them, though. We're not here to talk about them. So starting lineup that they rolled with is probably close to what we would see, except Tobuaka wasn't available in that game, so put him in over maybe Krivas, maybe Pete. But they went with Jaden Bradley, Anthony Del Orso, Braden Burris, Koa Pete, and Krivas. You see there, Bradley scored 23 points. Is he going to be a bucket getter this year? Perhaps he might be. And if he is, he's going to really hit his upside in many games this year. Krivas, 11 points, 17 rebounds against the St. Mary's front court that typically has some dudes. They lost some pieces as well. That's an impressive performance. I don't care if it's an exhibition game or not. The two freshmen both scored 10 points. They were solid. Off the bench there, you see the international player, Ivan Karachnikov. He is a player I'm also somewhat interested in and have been reading about. He is a 3K option. Looks like he's going to be a big piece to the puzzle off the bench for them. He played 24 minutes in that game, had 9 points. Somewhat interesting. And then you see my man Dwayne Aristode. He played 20 minutes in that game. Not a lot of counting stats, but he did play a lot. Let's pull up the other box score. This is against the great Emory Riddle in Arizona. Embry-Riddle, surefire tournament team if you're not familiar with them. Arizona laid the wood on them, if you will, 113-42. In that one, we did see my man Tobe play 21 minutes, 18 points, and 14 rebounds. Now, I know Embry-Riddle is not a juggernaut of a team. I was just being a little facetious there, right? But I don't care. You see what Tobe's going to do. There's been a lot of hype about him this year. They have been talking about him potentially leading the NCAA in rebounds. And you can see there's reason for optimism after that. The big thing for him is what? Staying out of foul trouble. Am I right? Foul trouble has been a primary reason for why he has struggled at times or not made value for us at times. But I will tell you right now, if he can stay on the floor for any length of time above 20 minutes, he is going to do some seriously heinous things. They did not start Jaden Bradley in that game, brought Tobin and Dwayne Aristode. I think that we're probably going to see a situation in which Del Orso or Pete don't start. That's probably how it's going to go. So that's going to be hard for us to pay, I think, for Koa Pete at this time. Braden Burries is definitely a playable option. Obviously, Waka is definitely one of our favorite plays from this team, priced at only 7.3. Going up against that Florida front court, am I confident that he won't get into foul trouble? Absolutely not. Are there some other spots in this slate that we can target that are lesser defenses? Absolutely. So for main team situations, might not go there with him, but I definitely like him this year and going to be talking about him a whole lot. And I don't think he'll be priced that low very often. Krivas, same thing at 6'2". Can he avoid foul trouble? We hope. Karachnikov at 3K is a kind of a flyer. And then you see Aristode there at 4.7. He's going to be a guy that I think gets minutes and plays defense and does really well and gets minutes because of his defensive prowess. But I don't know that he's going to be a guy that really gets a lot of counting stats. So probably not really a fantasy option for us at this point. And then you see the transfer here from the Ivy, Evan Nelson, putting in his stats from last year. The model was like, hey, this guy's 4'2". He's amazing. He's probably not going to play a lot of minutes here, just a secondary piece. So we'll see how the starting lineup shake out here. Competitive game. You would think a competitive game from the start, you'd want a million pieces of that. I definitely think we want exposure, but I still feel like we're okay to target games with blowouts in this era because, we're trying to get point differentials. We're trying to get tournament resumes up, right? So there's going to be chances for starters or key players to play even in blowouts. We saw that last year. We saw it quite often. All right, let's move along here to Boston College versus Florida Atlantic. Now, this is a game I can get behind and feel pretty damn good about for fantasy purposes. Two teams that Florida Atlantic will probably be okay. Boston College, they're not going to be okay. This is a total of 149.5. FAU is a 1.5 point favorite at this current moment. I do have exhibition games for both. Let's start with Boston College. BC here. They played UConn in the exhibition. And let me tell you, UConn looks like a team ready to make a run. Again, we need to take these exhibition games with a grain of salt, but when the starters were on the floor for UConn, my God, it looked like it honestly looked like UConn and BC were not even playing the same sport. UConn was playing basketball for sure. I'm not quite sure what Boston College was playing. It was not the same type of basketball that UConn was playing. Let me tell you that right now. All right, what happened to my screen here? Why is it doing this? Is it doing this? All right, here we go. You guys see that? Okay. I wish this ad wasn't here. That broadcast never had ads before. What do they got to start dropping ads on us? Come on now. All right, so the names really here to know: Donald Hand, high usage, high scoring guard. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. He's going to be the primary option on this team, and he's going to be the prototypical player on a bad team that puts up a ton of stats. Fred Payne, I think he's on a semi-breakout alert, just that there's going to be so many shots available to him as the number 2 on this team. Last year, he showed flashes. There were quite a bit of players at his position. He kind of got stuck in a logjam. But you see 11 shots in this game, 12 points, hit a couple of threes, 4 rebounds, and an assist. Hand, 16 shot attempts, 23 points, 7 rebounds himself. Those are going to be the 2 players that most often for BC are fantasy relevant. Now, Hand is priced at 9.4, so you're going to pay a premium for him. Payne 5.6, a little bit more reasonable. I was kind of hoping we'd get him sub 5K. I think he would have been a main team play then. But I'm also happy about this because guys are priced up enough that I think people will kind of him and haw about this and maybe not use him. Now you see the secondary look here at 7.2K, SDU transfer Chase Forte. He is going to be a guy that I think struggles. Transfers up. He has impressive stats. You see he has 50s in his game log. 46 is, just a ton of work that he put in at South Dakota. But the competition in the ACC is going to be a lot better, obviously. And this is one of those spots where I think a transfer up struggles. And when you look at the game here against UConn, he did not do very well. They started him 16 minutes, 2 points, 2 rebounds, an assist, 3 fouls, 3 turnovers, and a block. You could tell watching that game, and I tried to watch as many of these exhibitions as I could, streaming, highlights, whatever. He was very uncomfortable, and you could tell that, it was a big step up for him. I do think he ends up starting. What you see here with the starting lineup, Payne, Forte, Hand, Jaden Hastings, and Aiden Shaw will probably likely be the starting 5 that we see in this game tomorrow. The bench pieces that we saw, Jack Bailey, Luka Taus, maybe Bowden Kapke, the Butler transfer. Perhaps he could even start. And Jason Asamoah, who did not play many minutes in this game at 9, but I do think will be a pretty solid role player in this offense with this team. So those are kind of the players to know. This is a game, close spread, somewhat evenly matched teams. I don't mind the fact of potentially paying up for Donald Hand. When you look at Boston College here, let's share. Oh, Ken Palm. Raz, tell me, how much time you've been spending on Ken Palm? How much time you've been spending on Evan Maya? You guys are just feeling pretty excited about the season, I bet, and looking at old Ken Palm pages. When you look at this here, there's no Chad Venning, no Elijah Strong, no Josh Beadle, no Deion Brown. So Donald Hand here, 23.8% usage rate, 25.7% shot rate last year. Amongst the highest on the team, shot about 36% from long range and drew nearly 5 fouls per 40, and also had a pretty solid 18.6% defensive rebounding rate. So a lot to like there for him. Fred Payne in a secondary role did have a 22.6% shot rate, took 86 threes, shot about 34%, and had a steal rate of 3%, which was actually 9th best in the ACC. So I do have a lot of interest in Fred Payne here. I think that I'm going to end up with a ton of Fred Payne in this this slate in my main build as well. Nonstop the last 4 days. Yeah. Ken Palm. The sickos are out there looking at the XNXX. Yeah, I know what that is, Raz, in your younger days, but not us. No, we're out there on Ken Palm. That's our vice. looking at Ken Palm pages for hours upon hours. The wife comes in, honey, what are you looking at Ken Palm again? Don't look at me. No, I'm very, very much so been looking at the Ken Palm pages. All right, let's go over to Florida Atlantic. I do have one box score for them. Dun, 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 dun. Low key, kind of excited for this Florida Atlantic team. I don't think anyone outside of their fan base is really going to be talking about them a ton. But there's some new pieces here that I'm particularly interested in seeing. Dynasty wise, did pluck one player here that I'm fairly excited about, just because very unknown but has pedigree. Now, Florida Atlantic played Florida Tech. It's loading up here, as you can see. Mighty Florida Tech. It was a 110-68 curb stomping here. The starting five that FAU rolled with, there's some injury stuff we're going to talk about here in a second. Devin Williams, UCLA transfer. That's the player that I'm pretty high on. I want to see what he can do. Isaiah Iliohome, Zandy Pintolian, who is from overseas. A lot of overseas players this year. Teams went to the international ranks. You're seeing G League players now eligible to play. I don't know, but we're seeing a very big international infusion here of guys who have played professionally overseas and now playing collegiate basketball. I think that's why the G Leaguers are able to come as well. Kanan Carlisle, we'll see if this is going to be the magic stop for him to be good again. Was he ever really good? And then Devin Vanterpool. So that's probably close to the rotation you'll see along with Max Langenfeld. They got some youngsters in there, Johan Sissoko and Josiah Parker. Josiah Parker has pedigree, one of the higher ranked Florida Atlantic recruits in program history. 19 minutes there, 10.7 assists, or I'm sorry, 7 rebounds. You can see there is some upside there. Granted, yes, they played against Florida Tech, I know, but he's going to be a player that I think works his way into a lot of minutes really, really quickly. Now, Nicola Moretti did not play in that game. He does have a questionable designation, dealing with a severe ankle injury. He hasn't practiced fully, so we'll see what actually happens here. Starting out, I think if he does play, he's probably going to be severely limited. And at 6'1", the highest priced player on the team, we don't necessarily need to go in that direction. He is going to be, one of the better options on this team going forward when he's healthy, just because he's probably the most well-rounded player on the team. But I'm not going to be trying to mess around with injury. I mean, God, college football injuries have made me so skittish and downtrodden that I don't want to deal with injuries on day one of the college basketball season. My man Devin Williams down here at 4.3, Carlisle at 3.9. Assuming both start, you've got some really cheap options there. And then Isaiah Iliohome, who transferred in from USC. Now, he had some pretty decent games. USC, God, they're going to be terrible again this year. Not because their players are terrible, but because we're going to have these random starts, benches. You know how that guy does, Mr. Muss. But there were games where Iliohome came in and looked pretty good. So I'm curious to see what he looks like, with a full game under his belt, starting 25 plus minutes. Pretty solid in the exhibition, 8 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, had a block and steal. So he's somewhat interesting as well. If Moretti plays, he probably comes in. Pendleton moves to the bench, but we'll see. But all these guys are going to be cheap. And even Vanterpool, who hit 3 triples, shot 9 of 13, put up 24 points, and had 3 steals. I do think that will, the closer we get to lock, that, exhibition performance will kind of get around the community. And I think people will see him starting and probably try to plug him in there at 5.5. Let's see. I haven't looked at DK stuff. I'm sure they talked about it, right? Oh, yeah. So DK has a note on it. Scored a team high 22 points. It was 24, actually, RotoWire. 3 steals in the exhibition over Florida Tech. So there you go. People will see that and probably plug him in directly. And that's fine. It's not like BC is going to be a juggernaut. I will say Boston College has some handsy defenders, and we know Fred Payne, a couple of others that we talked about, can definitely swipe a lot of steals. I think Florida Atlantic is going to be a team here in this first game that does have a lot of turnovers. And a guy like Vanterpool may struggle a little bit here. Would certainly help him to have Moretti to take some of that pressure off. So expect a chalkier look on Vanterpool, I think, based off of that exhibition result alone. But Carlisle and Williams and Elio Home all under 5K look very appealing. Now, I'm probably never playing Ken and Carlisle. I shouldn't say never, but anytime soon. But he did have 12 points, as you can see, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, and 3 steals against Florida Tech. So we know he can play. Took 14 shots in that game too, by the way. There's no question about it. He can play. Now, some of the minutes were skewed here because Devin Williams got into foul trouble. He picked up 2 early fouls, and then he picked up a third. And then he picked up a 4th. So he played 11 minutes. So we did see some additional minutes go to Johan Sissoko. And then we saw Josiah Parker, Max Langenfield, and a couple others get additional time. But what that did was give all the shots in the world to Carlisle and Vanderpool. I do think Devin Williams is going to be a big-time offensive force for this team. I'm really, really sold on him, but I am concerned about that 4 fouls against Florida Tech. So we'll see how he plays here against BC. But yeah, Carlisle is another one that I'd love to play there, but definitely skittish after last year because how many opportunities, how many times did he come in at 3.5, 4K on Indiana and they had injuries, they had guys out. Oh, he's going to play, I don't know, 30 minutes. And he had like 0.001857 pi per fantasy or per minute. And I'm just concerned about that. So anyone who finishes a game with negative fantasy points, not once, not twice, but 3 times in a season, has to be really, really treated, with extreme hostility. And I'm going to be keeping a close eye on you, Mr. Carlisle, definitely. Another player that I had to add to the model, there's some of the newcomers, freshmen or international players. Amar Amku is priced at 3K. He did play in the exhibition game. You can see there right around 17 minutes. He had a couple of triples. He was really solid in that game too. He's a player I'd be a little bit leery about, but if you're going to MME the first, large field flagship GPP, which I believe is at a $15 this time. Let's see here. I was talking with my man Varnicus about what we thought it was going to be. It's 12. Okay. 12. I thought it was going to be a 15 because that's what it was. They need to bring back the $10 jam. Okay. But the $12 there with what is it? 1,960 people, 5K up top, max entries of 58. So if you're going to go into that, there's a lot of interesting 3K plays here that you can kind of rotate through. And I think Amku is one that definitely looks like a solid option. And I would be almost borderline ready to play him in a main lineup if Moretti is actually out. Don't think he'll start regardless, but 18 to 20 minutes. Keep in mind, he was extremely efficient in his 16 minutes against Florida Tech. I don't ordinarily want to be messing with players who are going to play 14 to 15 minutes unless we have no other value because I don't want to count on their efficiency. We're still dealing with, kids essentially, and we know how inconsistent they can be. And counting on efficiency rather than volume is not typically going to be a winning play very often. All right, let's move along here. Next game, Lehigh versus Houston. I don't think they have this line on DK. I had to go to FanDuel, and even then I had a hard time. 37.5 point spread in favor of Houston. Total of 137.5. Oh, what a surprise. Lowest total on the slate. Houston's going to smack this Lehigh team. But let's start with Lehigh. Here, let's stop sharing that for now. Start with this Lehigh squad. They do have some nice continuity. So I did mention continuity is king, but it's king for Lehigh when they get into Patriot League play. They are going to be a bottom tier Patriot League team. So this is going to probably turn very ugly, very, very quickly. Let's pull up the KenPom page for these guys here. All right. So you can see there's a lot of red, a lot of pink, a lot of salmon, if you will, on the page. Team that couldn't rebound particularly well. They did get squished early on. They did push Georgetown early on last year, so there is that. Some of the premier returners that we should know about. Nazir Whitlock, who had a damn near 30% usage rate or 30% shot rate last year as a sophomore. More of a secondary role, did start some games and got more minutes as time went on, and he really took over as a dominant scorer, especially as the team had some injuries. He is priced at 5'3", the highest priced on the team, so I guess no surprise there, but he is the player to really know. Josh Ingram, Hank Alvey, Ed Benoit, and I believe what I have here is Peter Kramer as the projected starting five. Alfredo Edessa, and Bube Moma, who is now healthy, as the second unit or primary Gus in the second unit. There is a chance Moma starts. I don't want to take a ton of time here on this first show. The attention spans of folks, especially in the Twitter sphere, aren't what they used to be. So I don't want, I'm going to be still doing long shows on bigger slates because there is the old school community who appreciates it, but we want to bring in new viewers too. So I'm not going to go too in depth on this Lehigh team. Ordinarily I might, but going up against Houston, this is a really terrible spot. The prices on them are cheap. And there is enough for them to potentially pay these prices, 3.5, 4K off, maybe even the 4 or the 5.3 for Whitlock. But Houston is just the real deal. I don't even want to take other Big 12 teams against Houston very often. So that's going to be a really tough situation for me to feel good about. There is going to be times where we can target players against Dukes and North Carolinas for these smaller schools and get away with it. It doesn't happen very often for Houston. I typically don't like to target against Houston until we get to the tournament. There are times where we will before, and it was my friend. I always bring this up, but remember the glory days of Virginia, how they're low scoring and involved in these games, and nobody wants to target their games. And you had said we can always find something from their games. This is how they play all the time, and that was true. When we found some spots, there were some DVP looks against Virginia. I feel like there's no DVP spots against this Houston team. They're just a different animal, a different breed. This is a team that we don't want to get caught targeting against too often. I just don't think it's a winning play. Looking at their KenPom page from last year, they are the real deal. Hell of a game against Florida there, 65-63. I could have watched that. Those two teams playing a best of 7. I mean, God, that would have been the best thing ever, right? They do have some solid pieces back, continuity-wise. Certainly feel good. Milu Suzanne, Manny Sharp, JoJo Tugler. Those are your 3 primary returners. Losing LJ Cryer as a top scorer. Juwan Roberts is kind of, your JoJo Tugler is your enforcer then, but Roberts was also a banger down low, right? Losing him as kind of your leader. And then Terry Arsenault transferring out. That's a tough loss. I thought Terry Arsenault was going to be an absolute stud for Houston this year in his turn, but he doesn't want to stick around, and that's fine. They do bring in some freshmen. They don't really hit the transfer portal too hard. The freshmen are super expensive here, and they are top 100 recruits. Chris Cernak Jr., priced at 9.2. That's a pretty tough price to pay right away. And then Isaiah Harwell there at 8.8. We had a box score on them. Let's pull up Houston's game. I believe it was with Mississippi State. Let's pull that up so you guys can see. Kingston Flemings is the other one. Houston, will be able to count on them because they have a shorter rotation. We know Coach Sampson, how he operates. No nonsense, which I love about him. Pretty much can know what to count on and minutes-wise for his starters. And what the pecking order is going to be. Foul trouble be damned on certain players. And this is the year of JoJo Tugler. We all kind of we're ready for the JoJo Tugler breakout. We predicted it, and it happened, right? But foul trouble always hurting him. And if he can avoid foul trouble this year, he is going to have an absolute massive game. Now, Mississippi State played Houston tough in that exhibition, as you can see here, 61-52, the final score. Let me avert your eye or put your eyes and attention on JoJo Tugler here. 17 points against Mississippi State, 6 of 14 from the field. He even attempted a 3. I see you. 5 of 6 in the line, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. That's a hell of a line for JoJo Tugler. The best part about it, maybe the most impressive, 2 fouls. Milos Uzan fouled out, for God's sakes, but JoJo Tugler, just 2 fouls. He is going to be an absolute menace. He's priced at 7-2. This is one of those spots. This is the Mike Kutry spot where you want to target a front court player against an inferior team. No disrespect to Lehigh and the Patriot League, but they're an inferior team. Houston is a Final Four caliber squad again. And I don't know that I want to pay the 9-2 for Cernak. Cernak could definitely put up a big score, but that's 2K more than the veteran JoJo Tugler, which I kind of know what to expect. Harwell, I don't know that he's going to be this massive, scorer. I think he's just a secondary piece. I think he's actually going to fill the Arsenault role, which is not worth 8.8K, right? We did see Kingston Fleming start there, and he looked pretty solid as a kind of a secondary, wing forward piece. He's priced down there at 5.9. That's okay, I suppose. Perhaps a healthy Ramon Walker, who's there at 3.6, will get more minutes here. Chase McCarty, who's priced all the way down there, your 3K flyer, dealing with a foot issue, did play against Mississippi State, didn't log many stats. So there's some interesting pieces here to see how it's all going to come together. But the nice thing about Houston, again, we know what that pecking order is going to be. We know where the production is going to come from. Manny Sharp, who's 8K, Milos Uzan at 8.5, and JoJo Tugler, who's the cheapest of that group at 7.2. So JoJo Tugler is a main team look. As long as he doesn't get any silly fouls early, look for him to have a double-double. We'll get some props going here. I already have a couple on Underdog that I've talked about in the Discord, but we'll talk about them here too. But Tugler is a double-double candidate in this game. 25-ish minutes before the core, the plug is pulled. He can do a lot of damage, and that 7.2 price is really going to be too cheap. Last year's team, if you saw a 7.2 JoJo Tugler, you probably would him and haw about it, think about it, foul trouble, whatever. But that's a really elite player that's about to break out in a big way. And he's already broken out. So I don't know, is it a re-breakout? I don't know how we want to phrase it. But JoJo Tugler at 7.2 is an absolute just stunning play. All right, let's move on to our next game here. Jackson State versus Illinois, total of 158. Is this the game? Okay, there was two games. It's this one. I couldn't find this on any book. So I had to just go to Ken Palm and pull what he had it projected at, which was a 28-point win for Illinois and a total of 158. So you may find a book out there. Pick the Odds, which is an odds screen that I like to use. I've talked about a lot. Does not have any college basketball odds up yet, and FanDuel and DraftKings don't either. And when I looked at a different odds screen, it showed nothing for this game. So I don't think you can bet on this anywhere yet. You correct me if I'm wrong, but so I'm going off the Ken Palm score here, which has Illinois projected as 28-point favorites and a total of 158. Let's start with Jackson State. This is a team, and they just played a exhibition game against Southern Miss, and it was a very hot, fantasy-friendly affair. I'll put it that way. For some reason, it was on Stat Broadcast the night of the game, and then they removed it and deleted it after. I don't know if it was supposed to be like secret or something, but I did not save the stats from this game. But I will tell you, two players in particular, Deshaun Ruffin, absolute stud, played for Ole Miss for a time. He put up a massive game, 40-plus fantasy points on the table. And then Dorian McMillan, who is a freshman coming into this season, he's a sophomore this year. He was a freshman last year. He also put up 30-plus fantasy points in that game against Southern Miss. So those are the two players we're going to highlight for Jackson State. Am I as worried about Illinois' defense as I am Houston's? Not a shot. I am not afraid to target against Illinois whatsoever. Day Ruffin as 5.7. Ruffin is a type of player who is going to have extremely high usage. I have this right screen up. I do, yes. Pulling this up. He had a 28.4% usage rate last year, 7th best in the conference, 28.9% shot rate. That was 8th best in the conference. And you look at that and think, oh, is this guy just Chuck? He does nothing else. No. 29.4% assist rate, 1st in the conference. And then he had a 16th best steal rate and the 10th best fouls drawn rate. And he's a hell of a free throw shooter as well. If Johnny were here, he would say he could make his free throws, Walter. You're right, Johnny. He can. Day Ruffin is an absolute stud. This is a player who's going to give us production in a 9K for a price of 5.7. He will probably be super chalky because optimizers out there, the RGs of the world are going to, he's just going to pull high. He's going to, there's just no chance of him not being super, super chalky. And I'm okay with that. But I love Day Ruffin. Dorian McMillan is even cheaper at 4K. I don't think people would be ballsy enough to play 2 Jackson State players. I would be. I know Razzle would be. Haven't decided if I'm going to go that route or not yet. Kind of some leverage would just be playing Dorian McMillan outright over the chalkier Day Ruffin. But at 4K, there's very little risk there for McMillan. And if you think Illinois is going to turn the heat up defensively, they might. It would be on Ruffin. I think McMillan would see the lesser attention there, so that would just be better overall for him. But those were the 2 standouts in that game. Now, they also have Devin Ree on the team this year. Devin Ree had transferred to Louisiana Tech. He started out, at Louisville? Didn't get used much there. Started out the season for La Tech as a kind of an important player. That La Tech team was really good. They were deep. I don't know how they didn't make it to the tourney. Like I said, they fell apart. And Ree kind of fell out of favor there, dealt with an injury, and then he just never really got back in the rotation. So here he is transferring again to Jackson State. He's priced at 4.5. He didn't do as well in that exhibition game, so just might not have it. Might be a tough situation for him in the D1 level. So not paying for him at 4.5, although it is cheap. The other players that'll be in the rotation and or the starting lineup: Jamie Mitchell Jr., Kavion Hunt, and Deion J. Thomas. Those are the names to know there for rotation wise, and the ones that did the best or played the most minutes in the exhibition. Day Ruffin, really, really easy play. And then Dorian McMillan, kind of the sneak there. This is one of those spots where I think you can get away with playing both and feel pretty good about it. Now, the Illinois side, let's see. What do I have here for let me pull up Illinois, see if I got any exhibitions on them. I would have had all these pulled up at once, but you have to open a brand new window each time. Otherwise, when you click a new game on Stat Broadcast, it just overwrites the game you're looking at, which is extremely annoying. So that's why I'm having to go in and do it this way. All right, here we go. I knew I had an exhibition against Illinois State, the Redbirds, who are actually going to be pretty good this year, believe it or not. They did get mollywopped here by Illinois, of course. No real surprise there, 92-65. The line and I have some injuries and some question marks for this first game. So there's some names we're going to want to pay attention to here immediately, and we're certainly going to want some exposure. The starting lineup they went with: David Merkowicz, not Berkowitz, mind you, Ben Humerichus, Kylan Boswell, Keaton Wagler, which probably not going to be a starter, but he started because of some injuries. And then Big Z, that's right, the Avisevich boys are together at last. And then we saw Brandon Lee, AJ Red, Jake Davis, and Jason Jaxtis off the bench. The way they're priced out here, nobody's really that expensive. Tomislav is 8.9. He is dealing with a mouth issue. He didn't play the exhibition game here, which you're looking at on your screen. There was a scrimmage against Florida that he did play in, so I would expect him to go here. A little bit nervous about a potential blowout, right? How much will they actually need Tomislav? We know he can fill it up in a hurry. He's a great player, but definitely don't think he's a must play in this spot. Kylan Boswell at 8.4. We know the inconsistency. He could give you a 40. He could also give you a 5. And I don't think that's going to change this year either. So 8.4 is pretty rich for my blood. Tomaslav's brother, Big Z, is here at 7K. We know he can fill it up in a hurry. He's a little spendy at 7K. The upside is massive, probably one of the highest upsides on the entire slate. And he doesn't need a ton of minutes to get there either. We do have Ty Rogers on the squad, but he's out for this game, I believe out for a long time. And then it brings us to 3.9K David Merkovich. Andrej Steljakovic did transfer this team as well. It's a lot of international flavor here for the Illini. Stojakovic is dealing with a knee issue, so that cost him the exhibition games, the closed-door scrimmages, and practice for the last week and a half. He is officially, according to Twitter reports here, a game-time decision. So very good chance he doesn't play, and if he does play, he's going to be limited. Priced at 8.2, you can toss him out. I'm not going to pay 8.2 for a knee injury that they really don't need. So with these injuries and the way things are shaking out, David Mirkovic is a player that I am really intrigued by, especially if Tomislav were to be limited and or out. If Tomislav's out, Mirkovic is an absolute slam dunk play. If he doesn't start, it would actually almost be better for us because I think less people would play him. But because of the potential blowout, because of the ailments to 3 or 4 players on the team, Mirkovic could be in line for 22 minutes, even if he doesn't start. If he starts, we might even see 30. Now, you can see here looking at the screen against Illinois State, he had an absolute massive game in 30 minutes against the Redbirds. 19 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists, and a steal, like a damn near triple-double type of line here. I don't know that it's a regular thing. He didn't get talked about nearly enough as the other players that joined the team this year, but I went back and watched that exhibition and streamed, and I was sold. Again, we have to take these exhibition games with the grain of salt, but it doesn't matter. You're still playing other D1 teams, and if you're capable of nearly throwing down a triple-double, you're somebody I want to get to know on a first-name basis. So David, I think he's going to be a very strong play here for us and definitely a main team viable option. Better for us if Tomislav plays because that will bring his ownership down. If Tomislav does not play, everybody will be on him because he'll start. But as it stands right now, he's a very strong option, main team play for me. Keaton Wagler was the starter without Andrei Stojakovic. He's only 3K. I probably wouldn't go to Wagler. He did have 9 points, hit a couple of threes, had a steal, a couple of rebounds, not, a fine line. Somebody who could certainly get 4X on volume alone if multiple players are out. So I guess I shouldn't write him off completely, but he is definitely a lower end value for me on this particular slate. This game is a stackable game. I don't know, as much as a 28-point spread could be per Ken Palm. But I think we could actually run 2 Jackson State and 2 Illini players and run 4 from this game and actually wind up optimal looking at the rest of the slate. So I'm very high on this one individually. Illinois, we stacked them a bunch last year and we had some really good moments with them. They also wrecked our hearts and feelings quite a bit. So tread carefully there, but I do think a minimum of 2 from that game is probably a necessity and maybe even 3. If you want to go full bore with 4, I don't hate it. All right, moving on to the next game here. We have Oakland versus Michigan, 23.5 point spread in favor of the Wolverines, total of 152.5. I thought I kept the Michigan St. John's game up there. I guess I didn't. So let's pull that up now. The Wolverines have some reinforcements. They've revamped their front court, and they've got some guys that you'll look at and think, how will they ever be able to play that group together? But they did, and they did it a few times. So here's the box against Cincinnati in the 17th. There was 198. The common denominator here, the first or the only 2 games we've seen exhibition-wise from Michigan is that they were both played into the damn near 200s for game total. So Michigan so far showing us they like to play fast and they like to shoot. And that is a recipe for all sorts of fantasy goodness for us. Looking at that game against Cincinnati, the starting 5 they rolled with there, Elliott Cadu, Mari Burnett. Yes, he's back. He's still around. Roddy Gale, Yaxel Lenenberg, the roster every time UAB was on the slate. He's there. And then Will Schwetter. Important note, they were missing some pieces. We'll get into that in a second. Yaxel, 31 points, 12 rebounds, 2 steals, absolute stud. Roddy Gale, 18 points. He got to the foul line a bunch. That's where those points came from. 2 steals, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Elliott Cadu with 14, 5, and 7. That's a pretty damn sexy line. Namari Burnett with a very Namari Burnett stat line, 7, 4, and 1. That's kind of what he does. And then even Will Schwetter got into the action with 15 there, hit 3 threes. And as you can see, yes, he did get teed up against Cincinnati. Very well done. Now, Ade Mara did not play in that one. Morez Johnson did not play in that. Those are 2 key key players that are going to be big factors on this team. And that's where you're going to say, well, how can Yaxel, how can Mara, how can Morez, how can these guys all play together? How are those pieces going to fit? And that's a very good question. Where's my, hold on here. Hold on. Something's not right. Robertson's not right. Why would that not come up on the Michigan page? Hold on. Can I suddenly not find that? It's like they removed it. There it is. It's like, where I can't find it. All right, here, let's pull up the St. John's game here. All right, again, high scoring game, as you can see. Now in this one, no. There we go. In this one, Ademara did play, and my man Morris Johnson did play as well. The change for the starting five was Mara inserted in the starting five over Will Schwetter. Morris coming off the bench. In that one, Yaxel, 25 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and a block. Yaxel is going to be an absolute beast. It doesn't matter. That's one transfer up that we're going to be able to count on. Now, Ademara, 13 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, 1 steal. You may remember Mara, a fantasy point per minute GOAT. There were times in 10 minutes on UCLA, he would put up a 20 piece. When Coach Cronin, the angry elf that he is, would give him 20 minutes or more, he'd break the slate. So it's very, very good to see Mara play 24 healthy minutes. He did have 4 fouls. There were lots of fouls nonetheless, but he played 24 minutes. And Mara, anything over 20 minutes is typically going to be pretty good there. Now, there's a lot of fouls in that game. Schwetter fouled out with 5. You see, he put up 10 points. 3-point shooting galore. He's going to be very good and add that 3-point shooting to Michigan. And Morez Johnson had 4. Now, Morez, 15 points, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks. He had a hell of a dunk there against St. John's, and he is going to be very good. And there were times where they got away with playing them all on the floor. It wouldn't happen very often, but there were times where they did do it. And Morez kind of played like a wing role, and he looked pretty good in that role. Now, they won't be able to do it a ton because Mara's not going to be shooting threes, and Morez probably won't either. Now, Yaxel can, and that's how they get away with it. But that trio probably not going to be sharing the floor all that often. But you see, Morez played 22 minutes at a 24, Yaxel 37. Exhibition game. Now, I did go to overtime, but 37 damn minutes. Yaxel, lay it on us, Mr. Yaxel. He looks fucking amazing. Now, looking at the way that they're all priced, it's $9.5K for Yaxel. You want to pay it. You want to pay it against Oakland because he is going to absolutely just be ripping and running. He's going to be one of the best this year. He may not be the Wooden Award winner. He may not even be on the first team All-America, but he might have a chance. But when it comes to what we care about here, DFS and fantasy purposes, Yaxel is going to be one of the best. Absolutely just lock and load at all times on Yaxel. And we have the value we've already talked about as we've gotten to this game to easily fit him. So very easy decision there to pay up for him. Mara is there at 7-8 and Morez Johnson at 7-6. The main concern here is that the minutes, it's looking like a split. Mara is going to play those 20. Mora is going to play 20. So we're not going to get much more than that. Of course, fouls can be a factor, and Yaxel's not immune to fouls either. Morez had a high foul rate at times last year. Ademara here. Let's pull up their Ken Palm pages from last year. See Addy just an absolute go. Look at these usage rates. Look at these rates. Look at him. 7-3, just running around, just doing everything. But as you might imagine for a 7-3 kid, 5.3 fouls per 40 rate. So he definitely had his trouble there. Elite shot blocker, great. But we're probably just not going to get as many minutes out of him that we would like to see. Now let's take a look at Morez Johnson's Ken Palm page from last year. Not the same level of usage rates as a secondary player, but he did block shots. Did a lot of good things. He was becoming a pretty damn good scorer last year, and he's an elite rebounder. You see here, 22.4% defensive rebounding rate, 17.2% offensive rebounding rate. Definitely an elite rebounder, but oh yeah, 4.8 fouls per 40. How often did he get into foul trouble and pick up too early? A lot. He had some injuries down the stretch last year, and you see there was a stretch in February where he became a starter, and he was just a guy that you could not fade, but fouls always derailed him at the most inopportune times. So that is the issue there, paying 7, 6, 7, 8 for Mara and Johnson. Not only the fact that they're splitting, but fouls, all of that good stuff. So we're going to pay for Yaxel in our main, and then maybe we'll get some all-team exposure to the others. Kadu at 7-3. It's a bit spendy, but he looked great in the exhibition games, as we saw. 9 points, 9 assists. Looks like his assist rate is going to go through the rate here, or through the roof, I should say, for Kadu, coming over from North Carolina, where his turnover rates left a little something to be desired. And he didn't always have the ball in his hands because of R.J. Davis existing. And, of course, Seth Trimble kind of breaking out. So we didn't see it as much from Kadu. But you look, he's always had an elite assist rate, 38.2% assist rate there, 13th best in the country, first in the ACC. And then even the year before that as a freshman, where he was much more of a secondary player, 28.4% assist rate, and 5th best in the ACC. So he has always been dealing drop and dime. So we can expect that from him. Looks like he's going to score a little bit here, but having players like Yaxel, Mara, and Morez Johnson to finish is going to really rack up his assists. So probably won't be targeting Kadu much for DFS purposes right away at these prices, but I will be targeting his assist props, assuming books don't, hang on 9.5 on us. But if we get like a 5.5, 6.5 assist prop for Elliot Kadu, that's an easy slam to the over. Roddy Gale, 6'8", Namari Burnett, 6'4", kind of where I would expect them to be. And then Will Schwetter, Schwetty Balls at 3.9K. He's fine. He's going to be out there shooting threes. It looks like his usage rate might spike a little bit this year. But the other value we've already talked about is much more appealing. Some of the newcomers to know, Oscar Goodman and Trey McKinney. I don't know how they're going to fit into the equation just yet. McKinney played 14 minutes in that game against St. John's, had 4 points, nothing to write home about. We didn't see Goodman, so not really too interested in them just yet. Same with secondary bench pieces like LJ Kaysen. There's just not going to be enough minutes for those guys, barring injury and or foul trouble. All right, Oakland smoking. 2 main players that you're gonna know. Well, I guess really just one. Players you'll know if you really grinded CBB, but one in particular from this team, Tuburu Navalarua. It's a tough one. Say it with me. Tuburu Navalarua at 7.4K, the top option here against Michigan. He's a stud for the Horizon in the mid-major level. I'm pretty concerned about opponents against Michigan this year. Their front court is just very, very large. I think rebounding against them is going to be tough. I think getting to the rim against them is going to be very tough. And then you got to deal with their perimeter, which are going to be handsy, physical on the perimeter as well. So I don't know how often I'm going to want to target against Michigan. Are they a Houston level where I'm just, running for the exits? No. But I do think that this could get a little bit ugly for Oakland. And when you look at the 23.5 point spread, it's large, but that could easily be a 30, 32, 33 point game for Michigan. Just watching the way that they played and handled, against St. John's. Yes, they gave up a lot of points. St. John's, Oakland's not St. John's. But I think that this could be a game that Michigan really kind of, introduces their new version to the country with a dominant win. So we'll see what happens. But I do think Michigan's going to run here. Now Larua, clearly the best play for them at 7.4K. You do have Brody Robinson here. He's been around. What was he at last year? Texas Arlington, I believe. A scoring option for them, or a secondary piece. He's fairly cheap at 4.1. I think he's going to be a pretty good player for them this year, but I'm not really looking to get down with him just yet. Other starters for this team, or projected starters: Michael Hooge, Nate Deere, and then it looks to me like Warren Marshall is going to get a lot of minutes for them as well, and then Nassim Mashur. Not really anything here from a fantasy perspective that I want too much of. Again, I just want to be cautious with this first game against Michigan. All right, moving on, we have what should be perhaps a closer game on paper: Villanova versus BYU, total of 153.5. BYU is an 8.5 point favorite. And let's just open up right here to the BYU exhibitions, because we got some stuff to like for BYU. Hello. There we go. What is going on? Okay, let's do this. Can't be having a misbehaving stat broadcast, okay? Don't do this to us. All right, there we go. So BYU had multiple scrimmages, but 2 exhibitions that we have box scores for. And there is something in particular that stands out in both. Now, in this game, is this game in Las Vegas? I believe this one's in Las Vegas. Let me just double check before I tell you guys the wrong thing. I think this is a neutral court game, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, the Hall of Fame series in Las Vegas. There is a ton of preseason tournaments and new tournaments and things like that. So there's a ton of neutral court opportunities here for some teams to play that you wouldn't ordinarily see. But do want to harp that this is a neutral court. BYU still 8.5 point favorites, but again, being played in Las Vegas. Closer for BYU, obviously, but an important distinction to make nonetheless. All right, let's pull up let's pull up this one. 78-76 victory over North Carolina. It's part of the Bad Boy Mower series here in the preseason exhibition. Close game, very fun game. Top rated, one of the top rated recruits, possible number 1 pick, obvious one and done. You don't think of these type of recruits coming to BYU, but NIL is a hell of a thing, I should say, not drug. And that allows schools with heavy, deep-pocketed donors to bring in players of this caliber. So AJ DeBansta is here with BYU. He's a total stud. Against North Carolina, 18 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 blocks, 3 steals. Absolute phenomenal. Rob Wright, who transfers in from Baylor, 12 points, 5 assists, and a steal. Keba Kaida, who's showing he's going to be a big-time breakout candidate this year, playing next to AJ. 16 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block. Richie Saunders, he's back. Headbands galore. This team is so awesome. 14 points, 3 rebounds, and assists, 3 steals. He shot 9 threes, only made 2 of them, but Richie Rich, he's going to be shooting a lot. And then Kennard Davis transfers in. Mid-major level, 8 points, 2 steals, not a big game. Tyler Mraz transfers in from Idaho. He's another piece that they like. And then you have players like Xavier Staten, who is another freshman, not going to play as many minutes. Mihai Boscovich, and some other secondary pieces. But the starting 5 is really the group for DFS purposes that we care about, which should be DeVansta, Wright, Kaida, Sanders, and Davis Jr. You can see here they all performed quite well. Now let's go to the other game BYU played. Which was against Nebraska. It was a 90-89 loss. Not part of the Bad Boy Mower series, unfortunately, but still a game that we want to look at. Advanced scored 30 points in this game. Did watch this one from start to finish. Completely impressed. 10 of 19 from the field, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a block. Now his stocks, if you will, steals and blocks, have been massive in those 2 exhibition games. We like that. That's a lot of points, and the fact that he's going to be one of the number 1 scorers on the team. Richie Sanders is still going to get his too, but AJ can score in a variety of ways where Sanders is just shooting threes. In the 2 exhibition games, Richie shot 19 threes. Now he only made 5 of them, but he's got the green light to shoot, and shoot. Kaida, 5 points, 5 rebounds. A little bit of a neutering there for him because he was in foul trouble. Rob Wright had 8 points, 5 assists, and a steal. And then Kennard Davis, 9 points. Off the bench there, Kadeem Mbap, 12 points and 11 rebounds. He looked very good there. But AJ Divance had 30 points and 18. He has a prop of 17.5 points on underdog. Run, don't walk. Check in a minute to see if that's still there. Over 17.5 points is one of the easiest props you will get on day one. Over 17.5 points. Walk that in immediately. He's going to be a total stud. So he is priced at 9.7. It's a very, very expensive price. I would play Yaxel over him. You might be able to play both, perhaps. But they have done some things with pricing here that I'm happy with. I will say that stiffer pricing will always benefit us. I know it's tough, Raz, but it will always benefit us because we're capable of finding and dumpster diving and finding that value. Whereas if the pricing is soft, you just mindlessly click in a lineup and score 300. So this does favor us in that regard. I would try to fit Yaxel with AJ. It's an intriguing look. When you look at the pay ups here, Donald Hand, Zubi Ejiofor, Senek, Richie Saunders, Vucevic, Donovan Denton, we're going to talk about in a second. There's some good names here, but the top two there look pretty damn good. If you can combo them together, I think you're looking at a possible 90 to 100 points. I really, really do between those two players. So if you can make it happen, definitely try. Richie Saunders is a little expensive at 9-1 just because like rebounds and stuff aren't going to be there for him as much. He's just going to be shooting a lot. And if he were 7-1, I'd be a hell of a lot more interested, but I'm not prepared to pay a premium price for him just yet. But he's been great. In March and April, he was fantastic last year. Keba Kaida, a little spendy at 7-9. Again, I expect a pretty big breakout for him in terms of his rebounding and shot blocking. I think he could possibly average double-digit rebounds this year. Rob Wright is there at 7-8. And then Kennard Davis is your value piece at 4-3. Came from the Missouri Valley Conference. Southern Illinois, I believe, is where he was at. Don't want to go through and pull that, but I'm pretty sure it was SIU. Very consistent scorer for them. Obviously way down the pecking order in usage, but if he's going to be playing 25, 30 minutes in a close game, he's worthwhile at 4-3. Absolutely. We do have a questionable tag for Dawson Baker. He just missed the exhibition with North Carolina, but it didn't seem like he had a serious injury. So I wouldn't be shocked if he played. Dawson Baker's not much of a fantasy asset, especially not going to be with all these studs above him now. The only relevance there is if he doesn't play, some more minutes for Kennard Davis, but we might actually see a little bit more Mraz. We might actually see a little bit more Boskovic in a slightly bigger lineup as they move AJ to more of a 2 or 3 instead of a 4. So we'll see what happens with the news there, but it doesn't impact that much because we know we like Kennard Davis as value either way and paying up for AJ. So Villanova side, there are a lot of overpriced options here for Villanova, I would say. I don't know that I have let me see here. I don't think I have a box for Villanova, do I? Stop sharing. I'll pull that up in just a second there, Mr. Downplays. Just let me get through this last one. So Villanova, I don't think I have a box for them, but let's just double check. Villanova's roster is very peculiar this year. I'm not sure what to think about it just yet. Okay, I do. They played VCU. I thought I do remember that now. Okay, let's pull that back up. All right, here we go. So 70-51 victory over VCU. So this Villanova roster is going to look a heck of a lot different than you probably remember. They've got Devin Askew, who somehow still has eligibility, although he is going to be out for a few games here. Duke Brennan comes in from Grand Canyon. They do have Tyler Perkins back. Bryce Lindsey, who's an exciting player, was on JMU last year. He's transferred in. Zion Stanford transferred in from Temple. So a lot of new faces. And then the freshman, Akadin Lewis, who looks like he's going to be very, very good. And then also Maryland transfer Tafara Gapare. So a lot of new faces on this team. You can see here the starting lineup that they ran with Matt Hodge, Akadin Lewis, Tyler Perkins, Duke Brennan, and Bryce Lindsey. The short bench there because of the injuries that they already have. So we do want to at least pay attention to Villanova because it does look like a shorter rotation based off what I've read and what we see here in this game. Malachi Palmer, Jeffrey Christian, and Braden Pierce. Christian Jeffrey, sorry, I said that backwards. And Braden Pierce, that was their bench pieces. Agadan had 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. The freshman, will he be a one and done? Possibly. Definitely interested in him. Duke Brennan had 10 and 7. Tyler Perkins had 14 and 5. Bryce Lindsey, 12 and 6, along with 3 steals. Tyler Perkins himself had 5 steals. Pretty interesting stuff there. Now we do have a injury designation for Bryce Lindsey. I believe he's going to play though. There was it a secret scrimmage? Here, let me look here. They had a secret scrimmage. Okay, Raz says Nova played 2 exhibitions. So I thought one was a secret scrimmage, but maybe not. Let's see. Who was it? Is it Virginia? Let's see. I wish people, when they would tweet about secret scrimmages, they would actually give the box score. I don't think I have one for. I think I remember looking for this one and I couldn't find it. Yeah, I don't have it. So I don't know if that was a secret exhibition or what. But I know that Zion Stanford missed the game against VCU, and I think he missed whatever that was. And then same thing with Bryce Lindsey. So let's just read the RotoWire message here. RotoWire said, Lindsey has been ruled out for Friday's exhibition against Virginia due to illness. Okay, so he was sick. All right, so we don't have to worry about him missing out. And then Stanford head coach, 2 to 3 weeks to sprained ankle. I knew he had a sprained ankle. That was a while ago, though. So I guess we'll see if he actually plays or if he's going to be here. Let's do this. Let's look at my tried and true Villanova beat writer, see what he says. Here we go. So he says, Devin Askew, right knee sprain, Malcolm Flagg's right Achilles strain, Bryce Lindsey illness, we know that, left ankle sprain, Tavare Gavare completely cleared. So no Askew, likely no Flags. Stanford and Lindsey is a go, and Stanford is highly questionable. So we'll see what happens there. Some good prices for Zion Stanford at 4.8, who can fill it up in a hurry. We've seen him. His stretch down or his points down the stretch for Temple. He had a 4 or 5 game stretch where he scored 15 plus points. So he's a very good addition to this team. No Dixon. Somebody has to absorb that usage. It'll go out to 3 or 4 different players most likely, but I think Stanford's going to get all the shots he can handle on this team. Bryce Lindsey was a pretty prolific scorer down the stretch for James Madison as well, so definitely like that price for him at 5.2. But I really want to get some Akadin Lewis at 6.5. Will I be able to with the 2 pay-ups? Maybe not, but certainly some interest here. Looking at BYU's games and how high scoring they were in the exhibition, hard to glean how good their defense is going to be or not be. But I certainly, if I'm going to play 2 BYU, which I may, I probably want a little bit of exposure here to Villanova. So Lewis and Stanford are the 2 pieces I want to look at the most, depending on Stanford's status, of course, and then Bryce Lindsey. I don't want to pay 7.7 for Duke Brennan. Feel like he's going to get just absolutely muscled by Kevakita. I don't think he's going to be able to do much with that. And then Tyler Perkins, who has a tendency to get hot. His peripherals can be hit or miss. He did have some good rebounding games last year, but I don't know that I'm comfortable enough paying 6-7 for him. I think we barely ever paid 5K more for him. So probably wait on Perkins and go with either the freshman or one of Stanford Lindsay there, depending on how things shake out. Now, if the game time comes and suddenly Lindsay is it's got the COVID or the flu or something, and Stanford is still out, Malachi Palmer is there at 3K and somebody who, even if he doesn't start, could be in line for 20 plus minutes. So it's another 3K option that you guys can rotate through if you're doing the MME thing. Palmer was a very underutilized role player. Probably couldn't even call him a role player for Maryland. But during the non-con portion of their schedule, when he did get minutes, he did score. Here, I'll pull up his logs. Game against Alcorn, 13 fantasy points, 5-5. Against Bucknell, 11. Against Canisius, 21.5. And against Florida A&M, 8. So some decent looks there for Palmer. Granted, those were against very lesser tier competition. BYU is going to be a team many believe can make the Final Four, but a 3K guy playing 20 minutes is at least considering to a degree. All right, last game on the slate, Eastern Washington, UCLA. Before we get into that, let's catch up here. Let's get rid of this. Sean Browner. Hello, my good sir. I don't think I'm familiar with you. Thank you for checking out the show. I do appreciate it. Do you put out a player pool? Thanks for the video. I do. So I have a show with FTN, and we do have a Discord coverage there with player pools, player blurbs. I do also do a Google Doc write-ups that are shared with the premium Discord as well. And I have a projection system that I work with, but I do share that on the show when it's kind of fully running, but I'm not going to be doing that anytime soon because I want to get some games under our belt first. Because people tend to take the projections as gospel early, and that's not really the way to do it. So Sean, if you want to reach out, it looks like you commented on YouTube. If you want to reach out to me at dubdeuces85 on Twitter or Discord, I can show you what kind of options we have and what's going on if you're interested. But yeah, definitely. Don Play says, I was looking at 2 spots for tomorrow. St. Peter's plus 15.5 and the plus 5 in the 7 a.m. game. Yes. Yes. Jesus. That's 5 a.m. for yours truly. Queens versus Winthrop. Yes. If you're still getting plus 5 on that, that's good. Queens is plus 3.5 on DK now. When I first saw this game was going to be super early, I do like the Queen side for what it's worth. Plus 180 on the money line, plus 100 at plus 3.5. I do like Queens. There. And then we have St. Bonaventure's versus Bradley. St. Bonaventure's is plus 2.5. I don't want to get sidetracked here talking about betting before I finish the slate, but that Bradley team is going to be awesome. St. Bonaventure, not so sure. I think some people are going to look at that and hit St. Bonnie's, but Bradley minus 2.5 there is a very strong lean. One of my favorite bets of the morning window is Murray State as 3.5 point favorite against Omaha. Murray State, or as I like to call them, Creighton South, which I'm going to do conference picks here at the end, and I'll explain why they're Creighton South. Most of you probably already know, but yeah. All right. Razzle says, Nova played 2 exhibitions. Thank you, sir. You helped me out there. Quantitative eating. Any best bet show with Mike Randall this year? So Mike Randall took a job back in the school district. He's a very sharp fellow teaching our youth, the youth of the nation. And he is back in the Discord. He actually just posted some futures that he likes and a position in the Florida-Arizona game in the Discord yesterday. I am unsure of if he's going to do betting shows or not. I don't know if he has the time to do that, but he does post. He is back. He's back in the streets in Discord, at least, posting some stuff. So he may plan to do some stuff on his own, but he is back posting in the FTN Discord. But I'm not sure what his status is with the show. So you get me for now. I appreciate it. But yeah, you know what? I might ask him to come on and hang out with me once in a while. Maybe he'll do that. Maybe he'll be willing. I go on a little bit late for him, but we'll see. All right, Eastern Washington versus UCLA. This is a game I could have done without, honestly. Total of 146.5. UCLA 30.5 point favorites. UCLA is a team with a lot of familiar faces here. You've got Sky Clark, Eric Daly, Tyler Bilodeau, so the who's who of it all. The injury designation here to know Eric Daly is doubtful for the game against Eastern Washington. They probably won't need him. He's dealing with a very severe knee issue. So no Daly. Donovan Dent transfers in from New Mexico. He is priced at a high 8.9K. But he is going to be the real deal. We saw last year a revolving door at guard for UCLA and the way that Coach Cronin's rotation, where you could not really trust any of the guards, right? But none of them gave him a reason to trust them. I think Donovan Dent will give them a reason. Let's pull up the exhibition. They played 2 that I have a record of, so let's pull those up. They beat the pants off of UC Irvine a couple of days ago. Irvine is a team that looks like they're capable of making a run again. But man, UCLA absolutely dominated them. There's a strong value play in this game for me, especially with Daly doubtful, and that is Xavier Booker. So you can see the starting lineup here and for UCLA in this game: Xavier Booker, Donovan Dent, Jamar Brown, Tyler Bilodeau, and Sky Clark. Trent Perry off the bench, Brennan Williams, Christian Ori, and Eric Freeney. I think the main rotation, you can add Steven Jamerson to the list there, the San Diego transfer, but they're probably settled into like an 8-9 man rotation with Brandon Williams, Trent Perry, Freeney, and I think Jamerson as your bench pieces. When Daly comes back, I think he probably slides in for Jamari Brown and plays kind of in maybe a bigger lineup, but we'll see. But with him doubtful, it's more opportunities for some of these other guys. Now, Xavier Booker is priced at a mere 3.8K, transfers in from Michigan State. He just never got the opportunity. Highly ranked recruit coming into Sparty. And we know that freshmen sometimes get the cold shoulder from one Tom Izzo. But I kind of feel like he unfairly treated Xavier Booker with the way that he used them. And Booker is a 3-point shooting big man and honestly probably deserved more minutes. 14 points in this game against UC Irvine. He hit 2 threes, 6 rebounds. Now, he did turn over 6 times. It's a little bit problematic. I don't want to see that kind of turnovers there, but, played only 17 minutes in that one. I do think we see him settle into a role with this Bruins team of about 24, 25 minutes, and that's going to be more than enough for me at this price point. And when this slate first came out last week, it was kind of the first value play that I kind of zoned in on and saw like, oh, Xavier Booker is underpriced for the role that I expect. Oh, Daly is doubtful. That's even better for us because there's going to be rebounding opportunities here for him as well. Now they played, was it San Diego State in this one? Let's pull that up. Love the San Diego State team, by the way. So usually I played 2 pretty damn good teams in exhibition and won both of them. And granted, it's exhibition, but they took care of business there. Booker in that one block, 4 rebounds, 5 points. Now he did play 26 minutes there, and that is what we like to see, that kind of time on the court. And I do think he will play quite well here against a clearly overmatched Eastern Washington team. This game's going to get out of hand probably pretty fast, and we'll see those secondary guys. But Booker is much like a few other players we talked about, like an Ade Mara. His rates aren't the same, but if we get 20-plus minutes from Booker, he's definitely going to pay off that meager price and I think could wind up being on the optimal even. Donovan Dent, very solid, 18 points in that game. You can expect a lot from Dent. Because of the blowout factor, I'm probably not paying up for Dent too much. In close games, I'm going to be all over Donovan a lot. I tend to want to pay up for guards over big men a lot as the season goes on. We get into more competitive games, but I prefer the big men in the early going here. With guys like Sky Clark, Eric Freeney, Brandon Williams, Trent Perry, those options, A little more skittish on them. We know Sky Clark can play extremely well, but the short hook that he had last year makes me nervous. He is priced pretty high at 6'9". Jamerson as a secondary unit playing 15 to 20 minutes at 6'1". I don't think we can get behind that. Jamar Brown is somewhat interesting at 6'2". Where was he last year? Was it UMKC? Big time scorer for them. He's been playing a lot of minutes. Now he was down the stretch playing or scoring 25 to 30 real points throughout. And you could see he's contributed quite well in those 2 exhibition games. And I would say for a caliber player like him, 6'2" is a reasonable enough price, even though he's going to be lower on the pecking order to use. Just keep in mind that these rotations with UCLA guards, Cronin is an angry elf once again, and he does not tolerate a lot. So if any mistakes made early on, Jamar Brown's likely to play 2 minutes and then the next game play 35. Just be advised of that. I probably should be more worried about Xavier Booker than I actually am. And then you have Brandon Williams down there at 3.4 as a GPP type of value. But Booker at 3.8, that signed me up all day. Now on Eastern Washington, and how many of you have done your homework? I know Eric has. They're a decent team, but there's a very big injury problem here for this team. And there's no tag on DK. Do I think that that's going to be the case tomorrow right before lock? Probably not. So if this is the first time you're looking at the slate, or you don't know much about Eastern Washington, I would not fault you at all. But their best player is Andrew Cook, and he did break his ankle at practice just a few days ago. So no Andrew Cook. You can see he's priced down there at 5.5K. He will not be playing. I don't think that we would be lucky enough for that not to have an injury designation. I don't think anyone would play him anyways. There might be a few people who click him in, but that is the big news there for Eastern Washington. The players around, or at least that are kind of be fantasy relevant, Isaiah Moses, who transfers in. I think it's let me see. Had my notes here, but it's in I want to say the Big West, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, the Big West for UC Riverside, the Highlanders. Okay. Just pulling up his Ken Palm page. So high usage guard, scored a lot of points. He's priced at a interesting 6K. Now, this is the type of player I would normally like to target on these slates because kind of falls in this weird price point that people aren't looking. But I have no confidence in EW to do much against UCLA whatsoever. If Cook were playing, I think I would be more interested in Moses just because that would be another player to take pressure off of. But as is, all of the defensive attention is going to be on Moses there without Cook. The other projected starters here, Emmett Marquardt, Angelo Winkle, and Tyler Powell is what I have in my notes here. Might be some form or fashion there. Other pieces, Kyrie Huey, and Shamba Ngoy. That's the names to know for Eastern Washington. Really not going to be targeting against UCLA in this spot here. I think it's going to be very difficult without Andrew Cook for Eastern Washington to do much of anything. This game could and probably will get out of hand very, very quickly. So that's the rundown on this game, EW, UCLA, and the slate as a whole. Let's get rid of that. All right. So we did it. First slate of the year, feeling pretty damn good. Quick little run through again. My favorite pay-ups, Yaxel, Lindenberg, and AJ Duplantis, the two highest priced players on the slate. Wow, so imaginative, I know. I do like Fred Payne as kind of a mid-range guy from BC, thinking that people are going to probably overlook him. Value-wise, Xavier Booker, who I may end up getting pretty low owned now that I look at it and really kind of think on it. Maybe people aren't going to be going to him as much as I would think. And then, of course, the Jackson State Illinois game is the top stack. Day Ruffin is a pretty strong lock. Dorian McMillan at 4K as the value piece, and then going over to the Illinois side there, depending on some injury news, David Merkovich at 3.9. Really like his game and feel pretty positive about him overall. Now, I think that the field in this one could go heavy on St. John's, which may or may not be a mistake. And also with the Florida guys. I'm seeing a lot of chatter about St. John's in Florida. No issue with like mini stacking those guys with Yaxel if you can make it fit. I think we'll see a little bit more mid-range plays than we normally do, as opposed to the tried and true studs and scrubs builds that we see a lot during the early November part of the season. But I think there's a lot of opportunity here for leverage and us to be different with the way I've broken it down, the way that I plan to attack this slate overall. All right. So I want to talk about conferences here before we get out. What are we just over? I was going to say we went fast, but almost hitting the 2-hour mark. Doesn't matter. It's always 2 hours. Raz says Alton Hamilton for the win. I like it. I did see some hype on him from some of the media. All right. Conference picks. Let me get through this with the final four, and then I'm going to look at underdog, and then I'm going to get out of here. And I'm going to be back tomorrow to talk about the Tuesday slate. Do not be intimidated. Tomorrow is Christmas, morning to night games, lots of betting opportunities, but be smart with your bankroll. Just because there are games at every hour doesn't mean you have to bet all of them. Okay. I just want to be clear about that, but it is fun to do. All right. So these are my conference picks with odds. Some of them might be a little shocking or a little bit, off the cuff, out of the box, kind of, different. And some are very chalky because I just can't envision picking some other team. So starting with the ACC, I Duke, which is currently plus 165, not betting it, but the ACC just seems like a foregone conclusion that Duke is going to come out. It's hard, even for me, a traditional Duke hater. It's hard for me to not look at this team and see what Cameron Boozer did in exhibition games and not feel some level of, holy shit, that team's going to be amazing. So yeah, Duke. In the American Conference, Temple. I really like the Temple Owls. They're 15-1 to win the conference. Some great value there. They have 1 through 8 pretty solid, and a couple of guys that I have on breakout watch. I'm not going to go in depth here because of time. But yeah, Temple at 15-1 is a pretty solid value piece for me in the American. In the A10, I love St. Louis, plus 380. I don't think they're getting nearly enough love as they should. They have a really strong team, even though they lost some pieces from last year. They are very well coached, and Mr. Robbie Avila is back in the house. So the fact that they are the third best price to win the conference instead of the best is enough value for me to hit that. So St. Louis plus 380. In the Big 12, and this is the one that if you're in the premium Discord, you've already got. I am all the way in on Texas Tech this year for football too, but their basketball team is absolutely amazing. I love this Texas Tech team so very much. The main knock on them is, do they have the depth to make it? And sometimes I think even I get caught up in, you need all this depth, because once you get into March in the tournament, you really only need your starting five, a bench sniper, as I like to call it, and a guy that can give your big some minutes, right? Some breaks, right? So if you can go 7, maybe 8 deep, you're good. You don't necessarily need that 9, 10, 11 deep. That's just not a necessary thing. So the people saying that, Texas Tech doesn't have the bench to get there, I think is a fallacy. Obviously, they have JT Toppin back, who's going to be one of the best players in my pick for the Wooden Award winner. Christian Anderson, who is anyone with a brain has on their breakout watch list. He's going to be fantastic. Lawan Watts transfers in, the point forward from Washington State. He's the perfect player to run the offense for this team. Santa Clara transfer Tyree Bryan, who very inconsistent, but he can fill it up, and he's much better than the options Texas Tech have had as their secondary scorers over the last couple of years. Very, very confident in that. Luke Bamagoy from VCU, kind of an enforcer type. Very good for this team. Donovan Atwell, scorer from UCA Greensboro. And then my man, Jalen Petty from Rainier Beach High School, right there in Seattle. I really wanted the Huskies to get him. They didn't. He is the future of the program at the guard position. Now, you guys remember how excited I was about Corin Johnson and how I thought he's going to be an all-timer at Washington. And he was on his way, decided to transfer, and then he got hurt. And now he's transferred again, and he's hurt again. But Jalen Petty, if he stays with Texas Tech, or if he wants to come play for the purple and gold, which he probably should, is going to be really, really good. I think he's going to play immediately big minutes for this Texas Tech team. So right there, you've got 6-7 deep. They also have Josiah Mosley, who transferred in from Villanova. I know I said I wasn't going to break down these picks, but I have to talk about this one because I have Texas Tech picked to go not just win the Big 12, but also to do some other damage. So plus 550 to win the Big 12. Amazing value. Texas Tech is winning the Big 12. You can mark that down right now. 5.5 to 1. Yes, yes, and yes. In the Big East, struggled with this one between UConn and St. John's. It's chalk. Plus 125 for UConn is what I ultimately went with. I think UConn's going to have one of those years where they're just murdering everyone. I don't think they win the title, and I'm not even sure they make the Final Four, but I do think they're the class of the Big East, so it just made sense, right? Mountain West, I love the San Diego State Aztecs. The Aztecs are plus 120 right now, so it's not really the most bettable line. They have the best mix of any team in the country of veterans to youngsters. So they're going to be able to develop their young talent, the Elsie Harringtons, Tay Simmons of the world. With their incumbents, they've got a really great group of guys that were there last year. Continuity is king. It's one of my catchphrases this year. But they're going to be able to integrate those young guys as well. So not only will they be good this year and winning the Mountain West, but they're also going to be set up for the next 2 to 3 years as well. They are recruiting really, really well at San Diego State. So plus 120 to win the Mountain West. SEC, had to go with Florida, plus 260. Up there, Kentucky, Arkansas are the other two teams nipping on their heels, but I just can't see anyone else besides Florida winning here, and they're a prime candidate to repeat as well. Michigan to win the Big 12 at plus 460. I'm sold. I'm sold on Yaxel. I'm sold on my man Morez Johnson, Adi Mara. They can't play them all together that long, but playing two of those three on the court at all times, good luck to opposing Big Ten teams dealing with that, because that's not going to be easy. In the Conference Conference USA, Kennesaw State plus 650. 6.5-1 number here is elite. Kennesaw State is going to be the class of the conference. And I think Kennesaw State, I'm going to tell you right now, if they do win the Conference USA, they're going to win not one, but 2 games in the tournament. Kennesaw State, look them up, check them out. I do promise you this is a very good bet. And I do put my name on it that they're going to win a game or 2 in March. In the MAC, Miami of Ohio at plus 430. Peter Suter. It's the only name you need to know there. The Red Hawks are winning the MAC. In the MVC, this is where I'm talking about. Creighton South, the Murray State Racers plus 480. They've got the Creighton South moniker because they've got a assistant coach from Creighton, and they've got a team of straight killers that maybe weren't going to see many minutes for Creighton, and they just went ahead with Coach Ryan Miller and decided to play for Murray State here. So I really like this team. They get Freddie King, who was banged up, but in their exhibition game, I don't have it in front of me, he put up some big numbers, as I thought he would do. Got Ben Schlotzberg there. JJ Trainer comes over. KJ Tenner. Mason Miller, another Creighton transfer. This is going to be a very good team. And I don't see any way they don't walk away with a conference title, a tournament spot, plus 480 for Creighton South. Give me that MVC crown. Great value. In the West Coast Conference, Gonzaga, it's not bettable. They're minus 180. St. Mary's is good, and they're going to be good, but I think that this is one of those years where it's Gonzaga, and San Francisco's okay, but they got gutted by the transfer portal. St. Mary's, they've got some guys, but graduation kind of hit them. And it's just one of those years where there's Gonzaga in the WCC, and then there's everybody else. Transfer portal hurt the WCC in a big way. The transfer portal helped Gonzaga in a big way. They're probably more like minus 300 to win the WCC. So I guess there's some value there, but minus 180. Not really willing to tie up money at that price. So, all right, final 4 picks. Duke at plus 300. Houston at plus 230. Chalky picks, I know, but don't you worry. I've got 2 others that maybe aren't. Michigan at plus 390. It's weird liking the Wolverines this much because I know they're probably going to let me down, but looking at their team top to bottom, they're very impressive. So plus 390 to make the Final Four. And then Texas Tech, 5.5-1 to win the Big 12, 5.5-1 to make the Final Four. Yes, and yes, Texas Tech. Dark horse team to make the Final Four, San Diego State, 22-1. Very interesting price there. I think that they have the pieces. I think they're the clear favorite for me in the Mountain West, and they're a team that I think you play a neutral court regular season game with UCLA. I know they lost by 6. A neutral court game with UCLA, I think that they can win at a pretty high clip there against the Bruins. So I'm pretty high on them. So 22-1 if you want a long shot there, dark horse team. And then to win it all, who have I been talking about this entire time during this segment? Oh, yeah, Texas Tech, the Red Raiders, 25-1 to win the Natty. They are my favorite team, Texas Tech. I am all about the Red Raiders. I'm going to have to get a Red Raiders jersey. I'm going to be talking about them a lot. And again, I also like their football team a great deal too. But Texas Tech, my clear favorite adopted team. Last year, it was the Johnnies. You know, I'm a big Washington Huskies fan. I tried and true. They're going to be good this year, by the way. They always have to have one adopted team. Like that's just a rule. And it's Texas Tech for me. I really liked them last year as well. But the way that they're made up and JT Toppin coming back and if Christian Anderson does what I think he's going to do, they're going to run the table. They're going to absolutely be impossible to beat. Depth or not, they have a great team. Knock on wood, they got to escape injuries. They got to have the Christian Anderson breakout. If he doesn't break out, they're going to be cooked. But I think he's going to have a big year. If anything is the end of his freshman year, we saw as any indication that there should be no problem there. All right. Now let me go over to Underdog here. I have 2. I'm going to give you guys 2 because I want to save some for premium, and then there'll be lots of opportunities. I'm going to be on your screen a lot this year. So let's see. Ooh, they added some more games. They've added some more games since I came on. All right, let's see. The Bensta point number is still at 17.5. All day slamming the over there. You have a PRA number of 27.5 too, but I don't want to mess around with that. I just know he's going to score 20 points. Like model agrees, 21. I'm pretty confident there. He will not score under 18. So over 17.5. Then we're going to go over to the Utah game that they have here. That's another team I'm pretty high on. I don't have Utah like any crazy, winning the conference or, making the Final Four or anything crazy like that. I do think they'll make the tournament, but I'm really high on Utah. More for fantasy purposes. Keanu Dawes is a breakout candidate. He did really well last year towards the end of the year. We saw them in that late season Fox tournament. The Utah stack paid the bills for us last year. And then Terrence Brown, who transfers in from FDU. Terrence Brown had some monster games for Utah during the exhibition. And very, very confident in him. He also had 5+ assists, I believe, in each of those games. The prop here for him, 18.5 points plus assist, over on that one. So a real simple 2-pick here with AJ DeBenza over 17.5 points, Terrence Brown over 18.5 points plus assist. Utah is playing San Jose State. They should have no problem carrying that number with ease. Keanu Dawes also has a pretty soft prop of 12.5 points, 24.5 PRA, which I think is a strong lean to the over. But I'm very confident in Brown. Dawes, foul trouble, things happen. But with Brown, he's going to be on the floor for 30+ minutes. He's going to be scoring. And if he's not going to be scoring, he's going to be assisting on those buckets. So I don't think we'll have an 18.5 points plus assist number for Terrence Brown much this season. So jump on that number now while you can, because he's going to definitely be a stud. They've added Missouri Howard and Binghamton, Syracuse, and Youngstown State and Pittsburgh, it looks. So I haven't seen these props yet because these weren't available beforehand. Let's see if there's anything that I can give as a third. All right. I do like this one. Anthony Robinson is going to fill it up. I'm bent because I had him in Dynasty, and prior to last year, I dropped him instead of somebody who absolutely was horrible. And Robinson got snipe picked up by Mike Kushry of all people, and has just rattled off some really big games. And he's on a lot of – he's already broken out, so he can't break out again, but he's going to be a guy that fills it up for this team. He's looking at a PRA number of 21.5. His steals number is 2.5. Going up against Howard, I think he could probably hit the over on that steals, but I'll take his over 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He's just a stat sheet stuffer, and I trust him at this point. Last year, there were some foul issues because he reached. I suspect that issue is gone this year. So over 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists for Anthony Robinson. Nice little 3-pick to the over. If you have any boosts hanging around in your underdog closet, bring it out and drop that 3-pick as a they don't call it power like Prize Picks, but whatever their equivalent of power is, all 3 of those are going to hit, I assure you. Yeah, I think that does it. I feel pretty good about where we stand here. A lot of games. I'm going to post one bet on my timeline here for each window. So if you're not in the premium Discord or a member of FTN and you're kind of, you want to just see what I'm about and what the super show is about, I get it. We're going to post a morning window best bet, an afternoon window best bet, and then a kind of late night window best bet. So 3 different bets that I'll post tomorrow at certain times. You can check it out. And yeah, that'll do it. Feel pretty damn good about this season. We'll definitely have guests on as well. And I should be able to go on earlier more often as well, because I have my toddler who's 3 now. I have to be the one to put him to bed because he's a daddy's boy. And you guys have seen during the CFB shows, he was liable to just come out here and start talking and taking over the show. So I got to be the one to put him to bed. So I'll probably be doing a lot earlier shows here going forward with plans to do at least 3 shows per week right now, possibility of more. And we'll start getting co-hosts and guests on here as well. So appreciate you guys. On your way out the door, please make sure you hit the like button and retweet, repost, interact with the show. All of it helps so much. Let's get those green screens and window trips. Appreciate it. Let's get it.